Hi, this is David again, and mostly by request, I've had some individuals indicate that either they don't know what a cult is, or that I need to be more specific on what a cult is. I thought pretty much that anyone looking would know, but in case they don't, let me give you some information. I hate it to be a classroom educational thing, but this time I have vowed on my word of honor not to mention any specific groups, to basically educate people on what a cult is. And I do have, 2 master's degrees. I have one from Northeastern State and 28 units postgraduate from Springfield College, and I have a little bit of knowledge, educational knowledge, and some life experience. I've been a counselor, and I have counseled and been in training, and somewhat of an expert in MPD, multiple personality disorder, satanic ritual occults, and cult behaviors, and I do have an expertise in how that affects human beings. That is my forte in psychology. But let me give you some ideas. If you don't know what a cult is, bear with me. This is coming from, I'm going to say, a reliable source. The people that don't believe me can go on the internet and find their own reliable sources. But most of the definitions and the convincing that an organization is a cult is that there's, 8 organizations that are independent. They have nothing to do with each other. And they're determining that if you find 50% of any of this behavior in the organization you're looking at, it's a cult. We use that same diagnosis in the DSM-4 revised edition of the DSM-4, which means that you look up a psychological, like bipolar, and you take a look at it, and then there's 10 symptoms underneath bipolar, and if you meet 5 or 6 of those, you're bipolar, according to a psychiatrist. So this kind of analyzing is not new. It's well accepted in the scientific community. Before I start, let me simply say this, that those of you that are thinking a black and white world are not going to be convinced of anything. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. This is educational stuff. If you want to believe it, that's fine. If you don't want to believe it, throw it in the trash can and walk away. But anyway, let me start, and then you can objectively, if you can, if you're not coming from a black and white orientation, you can check and see if any organization that you're in, or that you're studying, or that you're interested in meets any or meets half of these qualifications. Now, every organization is going to meet some of these qualifications. And again, it's not black and white. Psychology is a formula. It's not a, if you do this, this is going to happen. If you do this, this is going to happen. Because there's all kinds of aberrations and exceptions. So let me start. And this is coming from the American Family Foundation. And they have 14 characteristics. If you meet 7 of these in your studies, then the American Family Foundation says it's a cult. Okay? Number 1, the group is focused on a living leader to whom members seem to display excessively zealous, unquestioning commitment. Now, if you've got a living leader and the people are all just, praising him or her, and they're zealous, and they're just convinced, this is the person that I want to be with, or he is or she is what he says to be. So it's unabiding obedience and worship, okay, and commitment. Number 2, the group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. Gosh, if you've been, and again, I'm not going to mention specific organizations, but we've all been to the airports, and we've all been to other kinds of things, even sitting in our house, and there are groups that are cults that will, unannounced, be at our doorsteps and trying to bring us into their cult. And so this can be at Walmart with a desk, and they're trying to entice you into some kind of an organization. Or again, I'm not going to be specific because certain people turn off the camera as soon as you get too specific. So they're always trying to get people coming in, advertisements, pamphlets, meeting you, shaking your hand, knocking on your door. Okay, number 3 in this group, the group is preoccupied with making money. Now, if a cult doesn't want money, it's probably not a cult. But if they want a percentage, or they want constant donations, or they're passing a plate, that's probably number 3 for the American Family Foundation. Number 4, questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or even punished. That's interesting. So if you go against the leadership, you go against any kind of the policy procedures of this cult, you are punished, or it's highly discouraged that you will not be promoted up, and or there's other reasons and ways of punishing you. Number 5, mind-numbing techniques such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, rehabilitation, work routines are used to suppress doubts about the group and its leaders. So if you go to a ceremony, or you go to their building, and they chant in any way where everybody stands up and uses their arm movements and their mouth to chant a phrase over and over, gee, that's going to be a number 5 with the American Family Foundation. 6, the leadership dictates. They don't request. They dictate sometimes in great detail how members should think, act, and feel. For example, members must get permission from leaders to date, change jobs, get married. Leaders may prescribe what types of clothes to wear, where to live, how to discipline children, and so forth. So if there's special garments or clothing, or hairdos, or other kinds of observable dress, that would be number 6. They're going to dictate how you think and how you feel. Number 7, the group is enlist, claiming a special, exalted status for itself. They're better than everyone else. They're closer to the great gods, or they're more righteous, or they're more moral, or they should be leaders and the others should follow them. Number 7. Exalted status for itself. Its leaders and members, for example, the leader is considered the Messiah. Always something having to do with the feelings and ideas of God. The afterlife, where there's no proof and there's no scientific evidence, but it is in the cult that the leader may be considered a savior or a Messiah or some type of avatar. The group and or the leader has special permission to save humanity. In other words, they really believe if you don't join their organization, the world is going to hell. That they have the keys and the abilities and the foundation, the knowledge, and a personal connection to God, that they're here to save you because you're a heathen or you're not doing what they want. Number 9. Gee, maybe some of you have already seen a cult by 14. Number 9. The group's leader is not accountable to any authorities. They don't have any checks and balances in a cult. You don't have an opinion. You don't have a say. You don't have a say. As are, for example, military commanders and ministers, priests, monks, rabbis of mainstream denominations. So number 9 is going to hit several organizations, but it adds to a cult. If you've got 6 and 9 fits, now you got 7. Now it's a diagnosis of a cult. Okay? No accountability means that you give them money and they never say a word where that money goes. And there's always the belief that they're caring for the organization or they're doing righteous things with the money. But there's no accounting. You never see any numbers. That's a cult. The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify means that members would have considered unethical before joining the group. In other words, if you belong to an organization that believes in cutting people's heads off, if you believe in doing things that you wouldn't have done before, but now the cult says, gee, This is the way we do it. We dip people in blood, or we torture children. Satanic ritual cults lean that way. But regular inside cults, their means justifies the ends. Whatever they do, they're never wrong. So if they use their money, power, and authority to hurt other people, minorities, or they physically or emotionally damage people, that's okay, because they're saving your soul. And they're helping you become exalted, and you will see God if you do these hateful, resentful things that ordinarily you would not do. Common sense tells you not to do it. Number 11, the leadership induces guilt feelings in members in order to control them. So if you're afraid, or they teach you to be afraid, whether it's subliminal or very overt, that is part of a cult. Fear that you're going to lose your position, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your wife, you're going to lose your kids, you're going to lose your health, you're going to lose your sanity. If you're always intimidated with fear, that's a cult. Number 12. Members' subservience, which means they're nobody. The members are just the dirt of the earth. Okay? Members' subservience to the group causes them to cut ties with their family, oh my gosh, friends, and to give up personal goals and activities they were interested in before joining the group. So if you went to football games on Sunday, or you went to swimming, or you took picnics or whatever, and suddenly you join a certain organization and you change those particular things, that's a sign, one of the signs of a cult. Okay? And pretty soon, if other people in your family, your friends, and your neighbors don't come into the cult with you, you start to shun them. And you cut off ties with them. You quit exchanging Christmas cards. You quit going over to their house for dinner, because they're not part of the cult. They are the Gentiles. They are the wicked. They are the apostates. And there's all kinds of words that cults use to describe these people and drive their members away from their own families, because most of their families have common sense and go, hey, you know, this isn't for us or for you. But the cult divides them from that common sense and foundation, and the foundation and the family now becomes the cult. Not the real family, but the cult. Number 13 with the American Family Foundation is members are expected to devote inordinate amounts of time to the group. If you are busy, and you hardly have time to pay the bills or go to the bank, and there's meetings on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you're in activities, you're in picnics, you're in events, you're in training classes, you're in teaching classes, being taught in classes, and learning about the cult, it's a cult. That's one, number 13. Number 14, which is the end of the list for the American Family Foundation, is members are encouraged or required to live and or socialize only with other group members. Okay, that's very indicative of a cult. Many times when they want money, or that they have some kind of a subliminal task, they will go outside the cult. They will go downtown and ask for money, or they'll go into a business, or they'll go into an insurance company or whatever, and they will step outside the cult. But they know they're outside, and they know that the cult has sent them, so they feel secure that they can have some outside kinds of feedback. But you will find that they live, they talk, their telephone numbers, and there's 90%, maybe 80% of their time having to do with their own members. That is not a balanced life. That is a skewed cult life. Okay, so the American Foundation there, Family Foundation, has 14 list in their list of what is a cult. If you meet 7 or 8 of those in your studies, you better be careful. You're about to get into a cult. Okay, let me grab one more here, because there's several of them here. This is the University of California at Berkeley. It's a renowned university. I know it wasn't in the 60s. It was for education, but it was a hotbed of social change. Number 1, the recruitment. Deception. Group identity and true motives are not revealed. Boy, there's a good one. So if people show up and they're smiling and they're dressed really nice and they just say, you know, we love you, we love you, we love you, and they get into your head or into your house, the next thing they're going to do is, we want your money. And we're not going to tell you all the things about the organization. It's secret. You'll learn it line upon line, precept upon precept. We're just here to kind of introduce you. And then you find later there's certain amounts of money, there's certain amounts of property that you have to give, or there's certain behaviors you have to engage in, and then you say to yourself, my gosh, I wasn't told these things. I was told none of these things when I was first introduced to the cult. So one is deception. More information will be on its way. The group leaders tell you members to withhold truth from outsiders. Sacred. We don't say these things. They're sacred. They're not secret. They're sacred. Okay? Sign of a cult right there. Number one with Berkeley. Okay? Number two, emotional leverage. Love bombing. Oh my gosh, love bombing. I used that phrase in one of my other videos. Instant friendships. Brother, sister, we are your family. You don't need your other family if they're not following you into the cult. So the love bombing, which is we love you, we love you, we love you, which is nothing more than trying to make you feel like you've got ready-made friends. And most human beings are not all that social, and it's kind of neat to get into a group that accepts you. Instant friendship. Extreme helpfulness. Oh, let us help you move in. Let us help you. Oh, your car's broken. Let us come over and help you fix your car. Generosity and acceptance. Oh, you can borrow my car, or you can come over to my house. I'm going on vacation, and you can just use it for nothing free. Group recruiters lovingly will not take no for an answer. Invitations impossible to refuse. In other words, they just bum rush you. It's just like when I was in insurance, it was closing. You hand them the pencil and you push their own checkbook in front of them and just say, sign here. That's not a cult, that's a sales technique, but it is instituted and it's integrated into most cults. No, you're coming to our meeting. No, you don't have something more important to do. And to refuse without feeling guilty or ungrateful. I just have to do it because so-and-so has been so nice to me. I can't disappoint them, so I'm going to this particular meeting. Okay? Encouragement and generosity are used to lower defenses and create an everlasting, intense sense of obligation, debt, and guilt. If they're love bombing you, it ain't for free. You owe, and owe, and owe. And so when they pick up that phone or knock on the door and we need you to do such and such, you're already pre-programmed. You're already cult pre-programmed that you feel guilty and you say, all right, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Whether it's leaving your family and your kids unsupervised or whatever, you'll do it because they've already programmed that into you. Number three, they exploit personal crisis. They use an existing crisis as a means of getting you to participate. They exploit vulnerability arising from broken relationships. Oh, so somebody has been divorced, somebody has had a death, somebody's parents have broken up or died, or grandparents. Oh, you're just a little bit more susceptible to joining a cult, and they'll be intense on that. Oh, I know what it's like. My grandfather died one day too, and there's that empathy and understanding that really isn't. It's there for you being solid in their cult. Death in the family, loss of a job, move to a new location, loneliness, depression, guilt or shame, stress or fear. Basically, if you're in that kind of a psychological mode, basically cults will take advantage of you. If you're happy, you got money, you got a nice house and a wife and kids and everything is cool, you're probably not going to join a cult. But you may join a cult when you're not like that and then be raised up in it. Number 4, crisis creation. They employ tactics designed to create or deepen confusion, fear, guilt, or doubt. You aren't serving God the way He intended. Okay? Question areas of faith never before examined or explored and attacked other faiths specifically. Gee, have we heard about the great and abominable church? I wonder where that phrase came from. Oh, came from the University of Berkeley right here, that says that we basically have churches calling each other names and saying that they're doing this and doing that, and they're evil kinds of things. So they employ tactics to create or deepen confusion. When you don't understand something, basically they'll say, well, God's ways are not our ways. That'll be handled during the millennium. It doesn't matter. Just wear, your religion and do the things that we kind of say to do or in the organization, and you'll be okay. So that causes more confusion and more questions. But the human being in the mind goes, well, everyone else seems to know. I don't know, but I don't want to look stupid. So you just, say, okay. Number 5. University of Berkeley. All the answers provide simple answers to the confusion they themselves create. Support these answers with material produced or approved by the group. Man, if this isn't a lesson manual, if this is not a book, if this is not a TV presentation or a movie, I don't know what is. They will say things like, where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? And normal people go, I don't know. And then they put a book, a pamphlet, or a manual, or a movie in front of you and go, there's your answer. And most human beings are so vulnerable that they'll go, oh, there's the answer. So they create the confusion, and then they create the answer. And that ties you in heavier and heavier with a cult. Okay. Now let's see. I can only do one more. I've got a list of them, and again, you can go on the internet and provide the same list. And the only thing I'm providing is I'm reading it for you, and I'm giving you at a master's level how psychologically vulnerable we are as human beings, and we have to watch out for these people that are trying to take our money and control our minds. Okay, programming. Intense study. Study the scriptures. Read your scriptures day and night, lunchtime, in the bus, in the cab. You're reading all the time, and you're studying their doctrine. Focus is on group doctrine and writings. Bible, if used at all, is referred to one verse at a time to prove group teachings. In other words, they take group teachings out of context. They will use one sentence or one word out of the King James Version, for example, of the Bible, and say, see, that's what God wants you to do, love. And when you go back and actually refer to the phrase, they weren't talking about love at all. It was just a word in the sentence. So be careful of the intense study. You're there all the time there studying, and your lessons and your meetings and your training, and it's just chaotic. Your whole life is chaotic and run by the cult. Number 2, opposer warnings. Recruiters are told that Satan, watch out, Satan, or those people, the Jews, or the black people, or the gays, they always create a hate group so you feel like you're fighting for God. They always want you to hate. Hate with your money, hate with your time. Put a sign up, walk with us, and be vocal, and always know that we are the chosen and they are the enemy. Okay? That these other people that we hate are trying to steal us away from God. Our salvation and our reward and our Jesus points are going to be ruined by these groups of people, and the earth is going to hell in a handbasket because of them. That's exactly what Hitler did in Nazi Germany, that he made the Jews the scapegoat, and most, not all, but most of the German people got behind him and said, you're right, it's the Jews that are making us poor. They never thought it was World War I and their warlike tactics that made them poor. It's the Jews. Number 4, schedule and control fatigue. Man, you get calls at 7 in the morning, you get emergency calls, you have to work on a Saturday or Sunday, or you have to take off of work early, or take your vacation days to go on a trip or scouting or some kind of a activity. That's number 4 in programming. Okay? They are too busy to have that many friends, to basically have jobs or hobbies, are squeezed out, further isolation for the new member. They pull the real world away from you, and suddenly the cult world and the standards of the cult become your standards and become your ideas, and suddenly you're in the box. You cannot see outside the box. Everything in the box is good, everything outside the box is bad. Now you're into the black and white philosophy of life, which is not true. Life is not black and white. There's mostly gray areas. Okay? They attack independent thought. Critical thinking is discouraged as prideful and sinful. Blind acceptance is encouraged. In other words, don't ask those questions. God's ways are not your ways. And if you listen to us, we will get you into heaven. You shouldn't have thoughts like that. You shouldn't think that way. You need to support the upper echelon people who are trying to help you, give you their money so that they can live well, and then they're going to give you the secrets of getting up into the Jesus world or whatever the promises are. So they do attack independent thought. You're not allowed to say anything, and once you're in a cult, you learn that subliminally. You just don't question them. Whatever they say, you just basically say, okay. Divine commission, number 6. Leaders claim new revelation from God. Within the past 200 years, in which all but their group are rejected by God, they alone speak for God. So they have the leader is a person who speaks directly with God, and he or she knows what God has in store for you. And it's always from God. There's always this euphoria and this unprovable, unscientific belief system. And if you question it and you don't give them money, you're going to be fearful, and you're going to be on the outside of the box, and nobody that's in a cult wants to be in the outside of a box. So they're all divinely connected. Many will say that they're Jesus. Many of them will say, that I've spoken to God directly, and they have special connections to God. That's a cult. Absolution. Unbelievable. They insist on total, unquestioning obedience and submission to the group. To the group. Both actions and thoughts, period. Group love and acceptance becomes dependent upon obedience and submission. Unconditional love isn't. So, what a cult does is that you have unquestioning obedience and submission to the group, both actions and thoughts. You just need half of these, and you know it's a cult. You don't need every one. Last one on this group from the Berkeley University, 8, totalitarianism. Us against them thinking. It strengthens group identity. Everyone outside of the group lumped under one label. Apostates, non-believers, antichrist. They always have a hate group. The Jews, many times it is religious hate. The gays, many times it's social hate. The blacks and civil rights. These groups have people to hate. Go back into their history, go back into how they've treated minority groups, and see if you don't get a history of hate. Now, I can't go through all of these. I may hit them on another video sometime, but I don't want it to be arduous. Here is my summary. If you heard or have seen any of these in any organizations that basically you've investigated, or you're trying to find out about them, or thinking of joining, be careful. You only need 50%. You don't need 100% of any of those lists, and you can intertwine them, and you can stack them, and you can mix them. Legitimate organizations don't control you like that. You have true free agency. You have time for your life, your hobby, your families, your children. You can go on vacation. Cults don't allow that. They keep you so chaotically busy And it makes you feel important. And let me add one more thing to cults. They always have magic names, kind of like the military. Oh, he's a colonel. Oh, he's a private. He's a sergeant, first class. He's this, he's that. And they'll have sometimes magic insignias and magic clothing, and or what they call sacred clothing, as part of their cult. So any time that you hear president, supervisor, counselor. Now, I went to school for 4 years, and I only had a BS degree, and I was a quasi-counselor. Boy, to call someone else a counselor that has no education, who's a truck driver, a bricklayer, an electrician, and he knows nothing about counseling, or she, that's a wonderful feeling. When the group says you're a counselor, you're the first counselor, oh, that means I'm next in line to be the president, the vice president. Be careful of false titles that are attached to people to make them and you feel that you should be subservient to those people. You should salute them. You should bow. You should beg. You should do things that you would never do because it's an order. It's very, very similar to military indoctrination and going to boot camp. Yes, sir. No, sir. And basically, if you want to be in that group and eat and live and have a house and have a car and be somewhat quasi-cared for, you don't cross that group. You do not ask questions. And when you do ask questions, cult members are trained to deflect. Try to get a cult member to really answer the question. Keep your question short and simple, and watch the way they'll run around that question, and they'll never give you a straight answer. You never get a straight answer from a cult. It's always that they will take the question, twist and turn it, and then they will ask their own question, and then they'll answer it. So hopefully this has been a little bit of a presentation and a little bit of an introduction into what is a cult. Those are the characteristics. Be careful, be wise, and be educated. Don't believe me? Go on the internet. Go talk to cult members. Get your own experience and your own education, and have your thought process be your own. Not somebody else's. Not what somebody else is telling you, but what you think for yourself because you were smart enough to investigate. Thank you very much.